So what did we talk about? Okay, so in our last lesson, we focused mainly, after we finished the passive, of course. In the lesson before last, we talked mainly about the passive and how to talk about the passive, how to use the passive. And we agreed that when we use the passive, we're not really interested in who did what or what did what. We're not really concerned with that. We're more focused on the result of the action, which is the object. And we're not very interested in the agent who did the agent that did the action itself. We're not really concerned with it. The focus is on the object. This is the passive. And we also talked about the different passives, or the different ways we can use passive. So you can use it, there are many different verb forms. You can do it in the present simple, present continuous, present perfect simple. You know, there are different ways to do it. All you need to do is use verb to be and use the past participle. We did two interesting exercises, the one about Roy Sullivan, the man who was hit by lightning 7 times. And we also talked a little bit about Venice and the future of Venice. Then we talked about a new topic, which is, it's about recycling. But in this, we talked about containers and how to use containers for different nouns or different food items. And most of these are actually uncountable. Some of them are countable. For example, potatoes, I think, are countable. Also, sweets are countable. But I think the majority of them are uncountable. But if you use a container, or if you use a unit by saying, for example, a tin of tuna, a tin of soup, or for example, a can of lemonade, a can of orange juice, or if you say a box of chocolate, a packet of biscuits, a bottle of beer, or whatever, this makes it easier because this way you can count the container itself. So these nouns, they didn't change, they didn't become countable, but using the containers, you can deal with them, or you can handle them as if they were countable nouns. This is the idea. So we started here, we did this, we got used to it, and we also named some of the items and some of the containers that we were able to see in the kitchen, like a bag of oranges, a bag of potatoes, cans of cola, a carton of juice, a bottle of lemonade, a packet of sweets, a jar of jam, a jar of honey, tins of tuna, tins of beans, tins of, what's this? Cat food. So we talked about this, and we also listened to the conversation these 3 friends were having. So they talked about recycling, they talked about some statistics and some of the differences between the British recycling habits and the German recycling habits. So we talked about this. And the last part we covered was number 5. We found the people who said these sentences, who said each sentence. Was it Val? Was it Pete? Was it James? This was the last thing we actually finished. Now, moving to exercise number 6, we want to talk about quantifiers. All right. So what they want us to do here, number 6, is look at the words in pink in exercise 5A. Are they countable nouns or uncountable nouns? So let's take a look. For example, pasta. Pasta, is it countable or is it uncountable? What do you think?
Is it uncountable?
Okay, sugar.
Uncountable.
Milk.
Uncountable.
Tins.
Countable.
Right. Rubbish.
Uncountable, I think.
People.
People, countable.
Right. Places.
Countable.
Correct. Bottles.
Countable.
Paper.
Countable.
But here we're using
Mm,
paper like a material,
yeah,
not like
okay.
pages.
So uncountable.
Information.
Information. Uncountable.
Correct. People, you said countable earlier. Friends.
Countable.
Okay. Progress.
Uncountable, I think.
All right. So you can see that the pink words are mixed, right? Some of them are countable, some of them are uncountable. So there isn't one thing here. So, okay, so we got that out of the way. Now, they want us to take a look at the blue words. Can you see the blue words?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
How are you?
Alaikum salam.
Fine, alhamdulillah. How about you?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Tamam. Thanks.
Okay, so here, Malak, we're just doing, we started where we stopped last time. So Hajar just found which ones are countable, which ones are uncountable. But now, Hajar, I want you to take a look at the blue words. And this time, I want you, if you can, try to categorize them. Try to put them where you feel they should belong, okay? Because here we have, I think, 4 groups. No, actually, we have more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 categories. And these 6 categories are for quantity, okay? So we can talk about no quantity, 0, small quantity, large quantity, a quantity which is more than we want, a quantity which is less than we want, and a quantity which is just right, exactly what we want. All right. So this is how we've divided quantity, and we've divided these 6 categories over plural countable nouns and uncountable nouns. And we want to see the blue words. Do they change? Are some of them the same? Where do we put each one of them? Excuse me. So this is the focus of the exercise. So I think it's better if we go in the order of the sentences. What do you think? So we don't confuse ourselves.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let's start here. A bit of pasta. So Hajar already told us that pasta is uncountable. So we already know it's in this row column. It's already in this column. So we know this, okay? So this is half the question answered. Now the second half is when we say a bit, do you think, does this mean nothing, no quantity? Does it mean small quantity? Does it mean large quantity?
Small
quantity.
So this means we should write a bit of, we should write it under not much, don't you think? Or should we write it here?
In small quantity, I think.
Okay, but is it countable or is it uncountable?
Uncountable.
It's uncountable. That's
right. That's what I think too. So let's put it here and then we'll see a bit of. Okay, so this is the first one. Now let's go back and take a look. So we used a bit of. Now we have no. There's no sugar. But sugar, what is it? It's uncountable, right? So we need
uncountable, yeah.
So it's here on this side of the list, uncountable. But where do we put it? In which, under which quantity?
No, nothing.
Nothing, because it's 0 quantity, right? So no.
Yes.
All right. Let's take a look at our next example. There's enough milk for 2 cups, but not enough for 3.
For 3.
So 3 is countable, right? 3 people, it means.
Yeah.
And
enough is for milk.
For
so
milk.
It's uncountable.
It's uncountable. But what quantity group is it? Is it nothing, small quantity, large quantity, more than we need, less than?
Quantity.
Okay.
They rate it. They already write it.
They wrote it for countable,
Yeah.
but
Oh, okay.
not for uncountable, because
Yes.
you said milk is countable, uncountable. You said,
Uncountable. Yeah.
but we also have not enough. Can you see it? Not
Yeah.
enough. Where should we put
Yes.
not enough?
For countable now.
Okay.
Not enough for less than we want.
Yeah, because we have 3, right? 3 people.
Yeah.
So it should be with countable, and it should be less than we want, don't you think?
Yeah. Yes.
Not enough. I agree with you. I think you're right. Not. But do you think maybe not enough? We used it for milk, not for the people. I mean, it refers, when we said not enough, maybe we're referring to the milk.
Yeah, for the milk.
Not enough milk. We're not talking about not enough people, right?
Yes.
This means we should put it on the right side, don't you think?
Yeah.
With the uncountable column.
Yeah, not enough for 3 means the milk, not enough.
The milk
for 3.
is not enough,
Yeah.
not the people. You're right. All right, so we're going all right, I think. Let's check our next example and let's see. So this time we have plenty of tins. Plenty of tins. We agreed earlier that tins is countable.
Countable.
And plenty, how do you feel plenty is? Is it small
Large.
quantity, large? Is it more than we want? Is it less? Is it, how do you feel? Where do you want to put plenty?
More than we want.
You feel it's more than we want?
Yes.
Or do you think maybe it's large quantity when we say plenty of time? Because, but by the way, okay, here's a question. What's the difference between a large quantity and more than we want?
Large quantity, maybe we want 10, but we have 15, for example. It's a large quantity. But I think more than we want, it's maybe 100.
And you need just 10.
Yes.
What do you think, Malak, of this? What do you think the difference is between a large quantity and more than we want? Do you agree with Hajar's definition? She said that
a large quantity is a very big, a lot of things we have, but maybe we want them, but more than we want, more what we have, what we want, not the same quantity what we want, more.
correct, you're kind of right, yes. Because a large quantity, it's even if it's large, it's still what we want. That's the idea. It means it's the number we don't mind it. That's the idea. There's no harm if it's big. There's no effect. But when it's more than we want, it's becoming a bit of a negative thing, if you get what I mean. So where should we put the word plenty? Because let's take a look at the example. Because I want you to tell me, do you think plenty, does it go, do you feel it goes as something more than you want, or do you think it just means large quantity? Let me read the whole sentence. There are plenty of tins. There are plenty of tins of cat food in the cupboard. Do you feel plenty here is a word that refers to more than we want, or is it a word that refers to a large quantity in general? What do you feel, Malak?
I think large.
Do you agree with this, Hajar? Do you agree that plenty should be for large rather than too much, rather than more than we need, more than we want?
I think more than we want.
Okay, so we're not really sure about this, so let's just put a little question mark. So we'll leave this for last. All right, now let's check another one. So here it says, too much rubbish is just thrown away. I think you can agree on number 5. It's kind of clear. Too much rubbish. So rubbish, we agreed earlier that it's uncountable, and too much, when we say too much, where should we put it? What do you think, Malak? Rubbish, first of all, rubbish, is it countable or is it uncountable? What do you think, Malak? Rubbish. I think Malak's counting her rubbish to see if it's countable or not. Okay, so earlier Hajar said it's uncountable. So when we say too much, Hajar, what do you think? Should we put it with a large quantity or
a large quantity? Yeah.
Too much? You think it's a large quantity?
Yes.
You don't think it's more than we want? Too much. It's too much.
Yeah. Mm.
What do you think?
More than we want to.
Or is it a large quantity?
More than we want.
How do we know it's more than we want?
Because it's too much. Means it's not that what we want. It's more than.
How do we generally use the adverb to when we say to? If I say this restaurant is very expensive, and if I say it's too expensive, is it the same meaning?
Too, it means it's more than very, I think.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah. Means
But is the problem just the price, or is it related to my ability as well? When I say too expensive, if I say this restaurant is too expensive or this car is too expensive, is it just an issue of higher price, or is there another meaning behind it?
means I can't.
That's it.
Buy it. Yeah.
That's the idea. It's more than my ability, right? It's more than my need. It's more than my... Correct. So I think you're right. Too much, we should put it with more than we want. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Too much. Hardly any people in our building recycle stuff. Hardly any. What do you think of this? Hardly any. What do you think, Malak, when we say hardly any? And what's the noun we use? People. So people is countable. And if we say hardly any people, what do you feel? Hardly any people.
Yes, hardly any people. It means yes, I think it's countable.
Yeah, people is countable. Correct. معناها بنحطها in this column.
Countable,
yeah, but where? In which quantity?
In
when we say hardly
quantity.
any? Hardly any?
Quantity.
Do you think small quantity?
Yes, a small quantity.
Okay, هي موجودة كاتبينها أصلا. Hardly any.
Yes, I cheated.
Yeah. Okay. So this means your answer now doesn't count. You need to answer the next one. Okay, number 7. There aren't enough places to recycle. So here you can see places is like people, right? It's countable. So we use not enough for something countable. So this means we're going to put it in the countable column. So in which quantity, which row do you want to use, Malak, for not enough? What do you think?
Okay.
Remember, not enough, it's countable. Not enough, places. معناها نبغى حاجة في countable.
Enough places, countable, and less small quantity.
But it's not enough.
Not enough. Less than we want.
I think that's right. So not enough is for something that is less than we want. That's right. Okay. Now we have loads of paper and several plastic bottles. Let's start with loads of. So we agreed that paper here, when we used it like a material, we're using it like an uncountable noun. And we've got loads of paper. So where do you think this should belong? Loads of. What do you think, Aisha?
Large quantity.
Correct. It's large quantity, but is it countable or uncountable?
Uncountable.
That's right. I agree. I think that's correct. And then after that, directly, we used several bottles. Several bottles, several plastic bottles. Where would you put this, Hajar? Several. Because bottles are countable, of course.
Yes.
So when we say several, how do you feel this? Is it a small quantity? Is it a large quantity? Is it more than we want? What is it when we say several plastic bottles?
Several small, I think.
I also agree with you. I think it's small. So should we write it here under hardly any?
Yeah.
Okay, let's put it there and see. Okay, so the table is starting to fill up, which is good. All right, number 9, it says there's plenty of information. We agreed earlier information is uncountable. So we need to look for something here in this column. Plenty, where should we put plenty? Should we put it with a small quantity, large quantity?
Large quantity.
Okay. Plenty, yeah, because we don't have anywhere else if you look here, because we only have small.
It's yeah. Plenty of what?
Plenty of?
Of what?
Plenty of information.
Okay.
But we also had plenty earlier, right? When we said plenty of tins.
That's why.
So what should we do with plenty now?
No, but in the first example in countable nouns, but here in uncountable.
So this means
countable or uncountable.
Is it like a double shafra? Does it work for both, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a double agent. I think it works for both because in the examples, in the beginning in number 4, we used it for countable, plenty of tins. And here we're using it for uncountable. So it looks like it goes both ways. Interesting. But earlier, you didn't really agree where to put it because we had a little bit of a disagreement. Should we put it with large quantity or should we put it with more than we want? But now when we answered it for the uncountable category, for the uncountable row, we put it with large quantity because we don't have anywhere else. So does this mean we should put it also here with large quantity even for countable nouns? What do you think, Hajar?
Yes, maybe.
Maybe. Let's try and see how it goes. If the table works out fine, then maybe it will be correct. Otherwise, we'll find out. Plenty of. All right. Now, we've got people, too many people. Too many people. So people are countable, like we said earlier. And we have too many.
Too many, more than we want.
I think you're right. Too many is for something countable when it's more than we want. I think that's right. All right, then I've got a few friends. Friends is also countable. So where should we put a few? A few.
Small quantity.
Yeah, I think that's right. Let's see if the last one fits. We still have only 2 left. Let's see how we can fit them. So here it says a little progress, a little. So it's obvious that it's a small quantity, right? And progress, we said it's uncountable. So where should we put a little?
A small quantity.
Small quantity, yeah.
Yeah. So this means the table looks nice to me on the right side. I think it's all, I mean, from a quick look, it looks fine, right?
Yeah.
It looks okay. But there's one word for small quantity that we haven't written yet.
Yeah.
Which is for plural. Plural countable nouns to refer to a small quantity. Let's take a look. Let's go back. So we've got loads of, aren't enough, hardly any, too much, plenty of, a bit of. Do we need small quantity? Or is it a large quantity? Small. Ah, I think it's a bit of, right? Don't you think? A bit of. A bit of, we used it for countable. We wrote it for uncountable. A bit of pasta, exactly. No sugar, enough milk, plenty of tins, too much, hardly any people.
We use it in nothing.
Hardly any is already written, hardly any people. For countable. We need something for a small quantity. Loads, several. Did we write several? We did. We wrote several. But a few, I think a few, we wrote it in the wrong place. Because a few, it's for countable, right? Because a few friends, can you see this?
Yeah, a few friends, yeah.
Yeah, so we should remove it from there and put it on the left side. A few friends should be with countable, a few. But this means we need to look for a word which means small quantity for something uncountable. Small, uncountable. A little and a bit, plenty, several, aren't enough, hardly any, not enough, too much, plenty of, enough, not enough, no, a bit of pasta. That's weird, right? It's like there's a word missing and we can't find it.
Maybe it's a trick.
Maybe it's a trick, you're right. Let's check one by one, okay? A little, we have it. A few is not countable. Plenty of is for big quantities, large quantities. Several is for small quantities, but it's countable. Loads of, large quantities. Aren't enough, this is for countable, but we use it aren't enough when we want to talk about less than we want. So it's not for small quantities, hardly any people, but people are countable. Too much, this is too much. Enough, not enough, plenty of, no. Not enough for 3, a bit of pasta. I don't know, there's something missing and I can't find it. This means we're gonna have to look at the summary to check. But before we do that, I think we need to do that before we check the next question so we don't lose our answers. Okay, so let's take one final look. Plenty of, loads of, too many, too much, not enough, enough, a little, a few, several. Do you think we can use several to talk about a small quantity that is uncountable? How many times did we use several? Just once. Let's check. Page 146. Let's take a look. hardly any. عندي كانت مفقودة hardly any. So this means we can also use hardly any.
بس قلناها احنا حليناها.
احنا قلناها في ال countable، ما قلناهاش في ال uncountable. بس تكلمنا عليها صح؟ قلنا ان هي small quantity، لكن شكلنا ما كتبناهاش. بس باقي الجدول كله I think is correct. We did it correctly. Not enough, not enough. Too many, too much. Plenty تمشي للزوز. Loads of تمشي للزوز. A lot of و lots of تمشي للزوز. Hardly any تمشي للزوز. لكن a few و several we only use it for countable. And a bit of, a little, we only use it for uncountable. No, no تمشي للزوز. Not any, not any. حتى هي نريد نستعملوها للاثنين مع بعض. All right, very good. So I think we did quite well. We only have one part where I think we messed up a little bit, but the rest is okay. This means we can do the next question. Let's take a look. So the next question, let's see what it says. In part C, they want us here in this question to choose the words in the rules, but we have to check the sentences first. So here it says, I found some coffee. Is there any milk? I haven't got many cups. There isn't any sugar. There's a lot of stuff here. Is there much rubbish? Okay, so these sentences are mixed. Some of them are questions, but most of them are sentences. So let's take a look. So here it says the first rule, we use some or any in positive sentences. Which one did we use in positive sentences in these examples? What do you think? Did we use some or did we use any?
Some.
That's correct. We used some. Then it says we usually use some or any in negative questions, in negative sentences and questions.
Any.
That's right. That's right. And it says we don't usually use a lot of or much or many in positive sentences. Which one don't we use in positive sentences? اللي ما نستعملوش فيها هي هذه اللي بها.
Much or money or a lot of.
Yeah.
I think much or money.
You're right. Much and many are usually for negatives and questions. I mean, you can't find it a lot in positives. I haven't got many cars. I haven't got much money. Have you got much money? Have you got many cars? Have you got any money? Have you got any cars? So this means much and many. I think they're used mainly in negative sentences. Because if you're using a positive sentence, usually you don't say, I've got many cars. You'll probably say, I've got a lot of cars. I've got a lot of money. Instead of saying, I've got many cars, I've got much money. That's what I think. So I agree. I think the rules are correct. These are answered correctly. So all of this is part of something called quantifiers. So remember, quantifiers, they always talk about quantity. من اسمها quantifier, it's something that shows us quantity. And this is what this rule was all about, how we can talk about quantities. Now let's take a look at number 7. Listen and write the sentences you hear. You'll hear each sentence twice. Okay, so this is a bit like the dictation now. You're going to listen to a number of sentences, all right? I think 6 sentences. Okay, we don't know how many sentences, but I think maybe 6, I'm not sure. Anyways, if you miss it the first time, don't worry because you'll hear each one twice, okay? So each sentence, you'll get a chance to hear it twice. But I need you to get a pen and paper. If you don't have a pen and paper in front of you, I need you to go get a pen and paper because we're gonna listen and we're gonna write what we're listening to, okay? So does everybody have a pen and paper next to them? Hajar, Malak, have you got a pen and paper? Yeah, Malak, are you ready?
Yeah.
Right, okay, great. So let me take you to the listening track. And like I said, if you miss the sentence, don't worry, just wait for it and it's going to be repeated again. And then we can repeat the whole thing one more time if we need to. So we're looking for track 32, CD2, track 32. Okay, here we are.
Track 32. 1.
I think there's a bit of milk in the fridge. I think there's a bit of milk in the fridge.
2.
We haven't got enough bags of crisps. We haven't got enough bags of crisps.
3.
There's hardly any food in the cupboard. There's hardly any food in the cupboard.
4.
He's got a lot of tins of cat food. He's got a lot of tins of cat food.
5.
We need to get a few packets of biscuits. We need to get a few packets of biscuits.
6.
There's lots of coffee and plenty of cups. There's lots of coffee and plenty of cups.
7. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get all of them?
Yeah, I think.
No, number 3 and 5. I didn't get it.
Maybe 6. I have a mistake, some mistake, maybe.
Okay, let me just hear what you got before we repeat it again, okay? So,
Okay.
number 1, what did you write for number 1?
I think a bit of milk in the fridge.
Hajar?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of milk
Yes, there
in
is.
fridge.
Okay, and number 2, what did you get?
We have got enough bags of crisps.
We haven't got enough of enough bags crispies, I think. I didn't write the last word.
Bags of crisps.
Crabs?
Crepes, yeah.
Crisps or crabs?
Crispus. Crispus. I hear it. But
Do you want a crab, Malak? With Nutella
No.
and nuts?
No.
Okay. I would like a crepe now. You reminded me. I think I'm going out after the lesson and I'm going to buy a crepe. Okay, but here you have also different answers, right? One of you said have got, and one of you said haven't got. So this means when we listen again, I need you to check. Okay, number 3. What do you have for number 3?
It's hardly any food in cupboard.
Okay, and Hajar, what did you get?
I just write it's hardly.
Okay.
And then
And number 4, what do you have for number 4?
He's got a lot of tins of cat's food.
Okay, the same thing, Hajar, for you. All right, number 5.
We need to get a few buckets of biscuits.
Okay. Hajar, what did you write?
Just write we need to get, and I didn't write.
Okay. And the last one, what do you have?
Maybe I have mistake in it. There is a lot of coffee and plenty of cups.
Yes, true.
Okay.
There's a lot of coffee and plenty of cups.
All right. Let's repeat it. Actually, most of your answers are correct, to be honest. And only very few things need a little correction, but they're mainly right. So let's listen again and confirm all our answers. So here we go.
Track 32. 1,
I think there's a bit of milk in the fridge. I think there's a bit of milk in the fridge.
2,
We haven't got enough bags of crisps. We haven't got enough bags of crisps.
3,
There's hardly any food in the cupboard. There's hardly any food in the cupboard.
4,
He's got a lot of tins of cat food. He's got a lot of tins of cat food.
5,
We need to get a few packets of biscuits. We need to get a few packets of biscuits.
6,
There's lots of coffee and plenty of cups. There's lots of coffee and plenty of cups.
7. Okay, let's see what you have this time. So what about number 1?
Yes, I think it's right. A, just A, B for a fridge, in a fridge.
But can you say your sentence?
I think there is a bit of milk in a fridge.
Yes, in the fridge.
In the fridge, yes, that.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think there's a bit of milk in the fridge, correct. Number 2, what do you have for number 2?
I have not. I don't write not at the first time. We haven't got enough bags of crisps.
That's correct. We haven't got enough bags of crisps. That's right. And the third one?
I think it's right. He's got a lot of tins of cat foods.
This is number 4 you're talking about. But what about number 3?
Yes. Number 3, it's hardly any food in cupboard.
Can we say it's?
I don't know. That's what I hear.
Is hardly, I think.
Is hardly, yeah.
Can you say it again, Hajar?
It's hardly any food in the cupboard.
Is hardly. Can we start? Can we start?
No.
Is?
No, but maybe there is.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, there is.
There's correct.
Okay.
There's hardly any food in the cupboard. There's hardly. And then number 4, what do you have?
He's got a lot of tins of cat food.
That's correct. He's got a lot of tins of cat food. Number 5.
We need to get a few packets of biscuits.
That's correct. We need to get a few packets of biscuits. And the last one?
There is lots of coffee and plenty of cups.
That's it. There's lots of coffee and plenty of cups. But do we mean coffee like coffee beans, or do we mean cafe like the place, cafes?
I think cafe, they are preparing cafe.
But I mean, because remember when we talked about the difference, that cafe is the place you sit in. That's the cafe. But here, cafe, what did you hear? Did you hear cafe or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee, correct. Yeah, it's coffee. It's the powder itself, or the beans, coffee. The drink, the drink itself. So there's lots of coffee
and
exactly. There's lots of coffee and plenty of Plenty of cups. All right, so very nice, very nice. So this is also correct. All right, so linking, blah, blah, blah. I think we can move this. Now, let's answer this part. Can you see this? So here, sorry, I need to remind you of something. Actually, unfortunately, today's lesson will be a little short because I've got to leave. I've got a few, it's not really an emergency, but it's something I kind of have to do. So this means today's lesson will be a little short, but we still have time for, I think, 1 or 2 exercises. So let's finish this first, okay? So here it says, look at the sentences and choose the correct words or phrases. So number 1, what's the right word to choose here? Should we say no or should we say any? What do you think, number 1?
I think no.
No.
Recycling.
No. Because countable, recycle, recycling.
But do you think, why can't we say any?
Because it's not negative or
That's
question.
it. It's not negative. Because if we have are, we don't have aren't.
Aren't, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the reason. Correct. What about number 2?
Too much.
Too much.
Correct. What about number 3?
Hardly.
Hardly any.
Hardly any.
That's right. I got hardly any sleep last night. And number 4?
A few.
Few words.
Few
words.
Because words are countable. Number 5?
Yes.
Several people.
Several people.
That's correct. So several people is correct because people are countable. Number 6, I always have
Plenty
of time.
That's it. Because plenty, you can use it for both countable and uncountable. But many,
yeah.
we cannot use it for
countable,
uncountable.
Yes.
All right. Number 7.
Enough money to
Enough
go
money.
on
That's
holiday.
it. That's it. Number 8.
Some interesting places.
Should we do some? It's positive. It's a positive sentence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And number 9.
Too much sweet.
Yes. Too much sweet.
Remember that sweets in English we mean candy. We don't mean dessert.
Yes.
We don't mean dessert like in Arabic حلويات يعني. That's not what it means. It means, you know,
too many.
Yeah, too many.
Too
Because
many.
you can count the sweets. Too many sweets. Probably too many sweets. And number 10, I usually have
a little.
A little.
Yeah, because milk is uncountable. Now remember that it's kind of easy. It's not really difficult if you think about it, but it's easy to make mistakes with quantifiers. When you should say little, you say a bit. When you should say a lot, you say many. It's easy, but it's also easy to make mistakes in.
Yeah, it's like articles.
Like articles, because if you think of this topic, it's been with us since elementary, really, if you think of it.
Yes.
And there's a reason that they're repeating it here up to elementary B, to intermediate B. It just shows you that this is something kind of important for learners. And it's, like you said, similar to articles, it's something that you can easily confuse. All right, so now we've got this interesting exercise. This is a bit of a speaking exercise. It says, write 4 things, for good things, and 4 bad things about the town or the city you're in. Now, I don't know if we can think of a lot of good things about our city, but the bad things, I think they're going to be easy to think of. The good things, I don't know. It's going to be a little harder. Anyways.
Good thing because I live in.
Yeah, so we're all living in the same city. But the idea is we want to use the same quantifiers that we were talking about, you know, lots of, not enough, enough, too many, too much, you know, these kind of quantifiers. And we can talk about some things in the city. All right, let's make it interesting. Let's talk about the good things first, because the good things are going to be a little hard to talk about. So let's try to think of good things about Tripoli. What do you think? Let's talk about, for example,
shops.
Shops. The only good thing we can talk about. I was trying to look for the other things. What can we say about shops?
There's plenty of shops.
I would agree with you. Yeah, there are plenty of. I think we can even say good shops. There are plenty of good shops.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can still find good things in Libya, and the prices compared to many countries are. I think they're okay. They're not.
Yes.
Especially if you think of them, if you change them to dollars or euros.
Yeah.
I think shopping is great in Libya. It's quite good. Okay, so I agree with you there. What about noise at night? I think once you mentioned that you live in a quiet neighborhood, you said,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So maybe you can tell us about your neighborhood.
It's a very all day it's quiet.
Okay.
So also at night.
So if you want to use a quantifier to talk about noise at night, what would you say?
Noise.
Because noise is uncountable.
There aren't any noisy at night.
Remember, uncountable.
No. We use noise.
You can use no if you want.
Yes, there's no noisy at night.
But is it noisy or is it noise? And what's the difference?
Noisy. Noise. It's not. It's different, yes.
But what is the difference between noise and noisy? And you're right, it's different. You're right.
Noisy. You are noisy.
Correct.
Or the person you're making noise.
Correct. That's it.
Yes.
You are noisy because you're the person who's making noise. That's correct. So this means noise is the noun and noisy is the adjective.
The adjective. Yes.
Exactly. So here we have a noun. So your first example is correct. There's no noise at night. ماشي حالها. But there's another way we can talk about it. Can you try another way instead of there's no noise? Can you do it with a negative?
There's what we use it for negative? Any hardly any? No.
Good. But اللي قبل hardly any شو لازم تقولي؟
There's no or no not.
انت كانت تجمع السطرين وانت قلتي hardly any بروحها بعدين قلتي there's. Can you put it together?
There's hardly any noisy at night.
Is it noise or noisy?
Noise.
Correct. Can you do the whole thing again?
There's hardly any noise at night.
Nice. There you are. So this is another way. You can say there's no noise at night where I live, or in our neighborhood, there's no noise at night. Or you can say in our neighborhood, there's hardly any noise, or there isn't any noise. So the idea is always try to be a little flexible, even on your own. Try to practice this. Try to do it in more than one way, and you'll find yourself using quantifiers, a lot better than before. It just needs a little practice. Okay, so I think we pretty much finished the good things about our city. There isn't much to add. Everything else is bad if we want to mention the other things. But I have a good idea, Hajar. Instead of talking about our beautiful city, let Malak talk about, say, the bad things about her city. So this way we won't talk about Tripoli. Malak,
Okay.
tell us the bad things about your city.
There are a lot of rubbish.
Do we say there are or there is?
There are.
But rubbish, is it countable or uncountable?
Uncountable.
So?
But I think it's uncountable. There are.
But can we use are for uncountable?
I think, yeah. Okay.
No, we can't actually. There is.
Okay.
Because are, it means plural. Plural means countable. Do you get the idea?
Okay.
In general, uncountable is always referred to كأن singular, بالإز. So there's a lot of rubbish. Tamam? Okay, so this is one of the problems. Yeah. We have this problem in Tripoli too. There's lots of rubbish here too. Okay, what else?
There is hardly any traffic. Any traffic.
ما عندكمش زحمة.
Yeah.
So this is a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
This is a good thing, right? There's hardly any traffic because
all of them live in Tripoli.
All of the Sabha traffic is here in Tripoli. Okay, so there's hardly any traffic. Good example. Okay. Any other things you can tell us? You can mix good and bad. You don't have to only talk about bad. I was just joking, but talk about your city in general.
There isn't many cinemas.
Okay, now cinemas are countable. So what should you say?
Okay, are.
So
there aren't many cinemas.
Good. There aren't many cinemas.
Okay.
But do you have a cinema in Sabah?
No.
So you can't say there aren't many.
Okay.
You should. هو رغم انه grammatically نحويا صح الجملة ما فيها شيء غلط صح. لكن المعنى بتاعها when you say there aren't many it means there are a few. Do you get the idea؟ معناها في شوية غبش هلبة. بس لو ما فيش بكل كيف حتقولي مثلا؟
Not any. There aren't.
صح.
Aren't any cinemas.
For example, لو ما فيش بكل بتقولي there aren't any. لو في شوية تقدر تقولي there aren't many.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. Anything else you would like to add?
Pollution.
Pollution. Tell us about pollution. But first of all, think, is it countable or uncountable?
Pollution, it's uncountable.
Correct.
And I will use plenty. There is plenty of pollution.
That's correct. You can use plenty. Plenty تمشي للاثنين. There's plenty of pollution in my city.
Okay.
Okay.
About parks.
Yeah, tell us about the parks.
Parks.
Try to use enough. نحاول نخشوا enough.
Okay. There aren't enough parks.
Good.
There aren't enough parks.
Tripoli has the same problem. There aren't enough parks in our cities. I agree. Okay. What about Hajar? What about art galleries or places to go at night in Tripoli? How would you describe them?
There aren't any art galleries.
I think there was.
I think there's one. Yeah.
But it's not open. It's not open all the time. I think. I don't know.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember.
So let's say there aren't many.
Many, yes.
Or we can say there are a few.
Or lots of.
Lots of, but we don't have lots. I don't think we can use lots of. رغم أنها هي صح يعني
Lots
كجرامر
of
صح.
noise. Lots
No,
of
we're talking about art galleries in Tripoli.
Art,
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Haja said there aren't any, so we thought of one. So maybe we can say there are a few art galleries. There aren't enough. ممكن ماذا بينا نبغوا أكتر. There aren't enough art galleries. Okay.
Yeah.
What about places to eat at night or places to go at night in Tripoli? What do you think,
Yeah.
Haj?
There is many places to go at night.
But places, is it countable or
Is it
uncountable?
places? It's countable.
So what should you say?
Much? No.
Mhm.
Many. We
Yes.
use many, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you say there is or there are?
There are
Right.
many places to go at night.
I agree with you. I think there are a few good places to go at night.
Yes.
Maybe not a lot, but
Park.
you know.
Yeah. Also the parks.
What do you think of the parks?
We have a plenty of, or
Plenty? I don't know if plenty is a little too strong, I think. Maybe
yes.
Maybe
Yeah.
we need something a little less than plenty.
Maybe there are many parks.
I think many are okay. Yeah, many.
Yeah.
There are many parks.
Yeah.
Okay. Good examples. I like these examples. So you can see this is the idea of how to use quantifiers. And the good thing about quantifiers, you can use them a lot in everyday conversation. You just need to think of the word. Is it countable, uncountable? And then, play around a little bit with it. Okay. So unfortunately, I have to go, but let me just show you what we'll talk about in our next lesson. So in our next lesson, we're going to focus mainly on vocab. It's going to be a nice vocab lesson. We're going to talk about prefixes, suffixes. We're going to talk about reading a newspaper article. It's a lot of journalism, I think. And we have some nice new words here: conscious, estimate, park ranger, lifeguard, attach. So we've got a little bit of vocab, and we've got a very interesting article. It's a bit hard to tell if this is a real story or a made-up story, but it's fun. I remember this was fun. But the topic itself, prefixes and suffixes, are quite important, and they're very useful later on if you're going to take an exam like IELTS, for example, and you need to do reading and writing. Okay, so thank you for your time. Again, I apologize for the short lesson, and this means I'll see you again on Wednesday, inshallah. Okay.
Inshallah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Good day. Good night.
Bye.